So I don't feel totally prepared tonight. And I got to start off by saying I really didn't do much show research today. So, we'll kind of wing it as we go. I was telling my producer tonight is Garrett Tarango. So thank you, Garrett, for being a partner of mine. In the newsroom, we got Sean Allen. I'll keep up to date with him and tell you some of the news stories we're working on throughout the night. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. In for Chris Krok tonight, tomorrow night, and Monday night. Chris is back on Tuesday. So I didn't get a chance to do as much reading and prep as I normally do because I have other priorities. Really, really important night tonight in my life. And I got to tell you about it. Very important night tonight in my life. It's at 6 o'clock tonight. My fantasy football draft occurred. Now, that's important stuff. I got to tell you, that's, no offense, that's more important than radio, A fantasy football draft. 10 guys in the league. It's a snake draft. For those of you that draft, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you that aren't playing fantasy football, at least you know what it is. I was the number 9 pick in the league tonight. And my first pick was, and there's been a lot of talk about this across the country. My first pick was, and I'm sure I'm going to get beat up on this tomorrow. I'm surprised my phone hadn't blown up yet tonight. My first pick in the draft, fantasy football draft, was Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of Cincinnati. And everybody, my boy Garrett Tarango, producer, said to me, "Hope he plays." Listen, Garrett, Jamar Chase is such an exceptional talent. And yes, the Bengals have a history of sitting people and not renegotiating deals and so on. This guy, they need to protect Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow's got a history of injuries. And Joe Burrow needs Chase more than anybody. So if you're going to protect the multi-million dollar a year man and Joe Burrow, you got to get him a stud receiver. Jamar Chase, I'm predicting, will play. He's too important not to play. If you have done fantasy football and done your draft, I'd love to hear what you did, what surprised you on your draft, who were some of your better picks, and where you're lacking. Garrett and I were just talking about my draft, and he said, "I love your wide receiver room, but you got a problem with some of your other rooms. I only have one tight end, and that's Brock Bowers. He's tight end in Las Vegas Raiders. He is a former Georgia player." I have a connection to Georgia. Family friend of ours grew up in Northern California. And back when I was living in Columbus, Ohio, I'm born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. When I was living in Columbus, he and his family came up to Columbus where I was living at the time and did official visit at The Ohio State University as a running back kid. He was a kid that was being recruited by every college in the country. He narrowed it down to 5 colleges. He visited Oklahoma, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. And we really thought he'd go to Ohio State. That was what he really wanted to do, but he didn't end up choosing that. He chose Georgia, so the SEC. His name's Kendall Milton. Kendall went on and played 4 years down up in Athens, Georgia for the University of Georgia. We went to 3 games over the course of a couple years because he's a family friend. We got his tickets, went to games. An exciting opportunity to go to other stadiums and see Kendall play, and to spend some time with him on Friday night and then after the game on Saturday. And he did not get drafted this year. He came out this year because he graduated. He's a smart kid. When we talk about problems in life and problems in society, and government's not the answer, and we talk about young adult leaders, this kid is one of those. He has a strong religious connection, a strong belief in his religious space, if you will. It drives what he does. He's got great DNA. I personally witnessed him after games at visiting stadiums up in Knoxville at Neyland Stadium twice, and up in Lexington at, I think they call that Kroger Stadium for University of Kentucky. I personally witnessed as we were standing outside on the way from his locker room to the buses. I saw him standing there talking to us, and many kids come up and knew who he was and asked for his autograph. And Kendall was very nice and said, "Hey, Jeff," and to Mrs. Westside, "Jeff, pardon me, if you don't mind, I'll do some autographs." And we just chatted to him as he chatted to them. He looked every one of those people in the eyes. He asked them how they became fans of Georgia. He asked them specific questions and engaged with them in a conversation. He didn't grab just something and pass it back to him. That's one of my beefs in the world of autograph seekers. You got so many of these professional athletes. They just walk down a line and they just do autographs. They don't look at you, don't say anything. And it's a frustration. If you're, I have a bad experience with baseball. It's why I don't like baseball, because I had a really, really bad experience with Johnny Bench back in the early 70s. It just turned me off on baseball. And he was the biggest SOB in the world. And after that, I just really don't really follow baseball. I'm not an avid baseball guy because of that. Kendall Milton, who's a running back for Georgia, went off in the after graduation and played this preseason in Philadelphia for the Eagles. So he played several games for the Eagles. They did not keep him on the 53-man roster. They waived him. And the good news for my buddy Kendall is Cincinnati Bengals picked up his contract. So he was in Cincinnati today, signing his deal. He's going to be on the practice squad for 2 weeks. Supposedly, they're going to move him into RB3 position, or third running back in the room position, which is interesting. And I'm honored to say he's a friend of mine. I'm honored to say he's a great kid. And I'm rooting really, really hard for him. It's great to see a young man become a professional athlete and to be what you want out of a professional athlete. And that is professional, committed, disciplined, looks at it like a business, and appreciates the fans. Because, Dallas is a sports town. This is cowboy town. And we all you can come up with a lot of experiences probably where you've interacted with a professional athlete that just turned you off on it, that you've witnessed it, you've seen it, you have firsthand knowledge about somebody being an absolute schmuck. And it just frustrates people. If you've got one of those or a couple of stories like that, I'd love to hear them. It's always good to hear a great story. And the great story is my buddy Kendall Milton. He's signed with the Bengals. He's going to be there. Back to my draft, my NFL draft and fantasy football draft. It was great. Jamar Chase, I contend he's going to play. My quarterback is Josh Allen in Buffalo. I did not take any Cowboys. And the answer to your question is I don't trust them. I don't trust them this year. And that comes back to one thing, and that is they don't have the running back depth. Certainly Zeke is back in play, but Zeke is a former Ohio State player, so I very well know Zeke and his background. But I just don't trust in that running game. And great NFL teams start with a great running game. I just think there's too much noise on the Cowboys. I'm not buying into them this year. That's my opinion. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Krok. On the other, I got to hit a break. On the other side of this, I want to talk about the two big news stories because we're following a couple breaking news stories. One has to do with what I will call media corruption, and the other one I will call government overreach. And I'll explain what those are coming up in about 4 minutes. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Krok on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Love that promo. Opinionated talk radio. I'm opinionated, all right. And I'll give it to you. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff, born and raised up in the state of Ohio. Now get a chance to sit in the chair that Chris Krok occupies, filling in for Chris. He's back next Tuesday. I'm not a professional disc jockey, professional talk radio guy. I've been doing it forever and groomed for this. I kind of fell into it. And I fell into it because I follow the news. I don't watch a lot of sitcoms and dramas and all the typical stuff that people do. When I do turn on the TV, I usually turn on news networks. And yes, I watch CNN. And yes, I watch MSNBC. And yes, I go to ABC, CBS, and NBC. And of course, I watch a little Fox and News Nation and Newsmax, all those different assets, because from that, it gives me the ability to consume it and to analyze it and give you my opinion. That's what I'm doing. Tonight's biggest story is CNN. And it's Kamala Harris on CNN with an interview with Tim Walz. Now, the VP herself has declared that her, quote unquote, she calls it values have not changed, is what she's saying. She's doing a sit-down interview on CNN. A lot of the video and some of the audio concepts have already been leaked. So there's quite a bit of it already out there before it even airs. Why? They did that earlier today. It's media corruption. Let me get to the point. It's media flipping corruption. Let me explain. First of all, they did a sit-down interview with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz at CNN. So we're talking two Democrats, very liberal Democrats, with another liberal Democrat on a liberal Democrat network. Does that sound like the job and the role of the media? Hell no. Let me tell you something. The role of the media is to be the watchdog of the community, the watchdog of government, not to be the PR firm or the PR arm of an administration. So they sit down with CNN. They're doing the bus tour in Georgia. Dana Bash flies somewhere into Georgia. They sit down there and do it. And some of the clips I've already seen, Dana Bash asks her questions and gives her multiple choices. Basically floats her the answer. Pick A, B, or C. Unbelievable. So Kamala says that her values have not changed on key issues such as climate change and immigration, despite her shifting policy stances, as she and her running mate, Tim Walz, are sitting in for an interview that's their very first interview with CNN. Now, Harris and Walz, who have faced criticism that they have avoided tough questions, spoke to Dana Bash, and they're taking a bus tour through Georgia. Now, a couple clips have been released, and as I saw the clips, that's when my opinion was really formulated. Because they're softball questions and softball answers and no follow-ups and not pressing at all Harris and Walz. And Walz is acting as a crutch. Guess what? He's her bailer outer. If she can't answer a question, if she can't go deep into a policy, he's the one that plays it off. I've said this before. It's like that date that you had when you asked a girl out and you go pick her up, you drive over, you go up, you knock on the door, you're ready to go out on a date. She opens the door and it's her and her roommate or her and her best friend. And she says, oh, hi, it's my best friend. She's going to join us tonight. Now you're on a date. It's a threesome. You're on a date with a girl and her best friend. It's a bailer outer. That's what this is tonight. They're not getting down to hardcore issues and really being tested with this. They're faced with questions on a wide range of issues, including domestic and foreign policy, and Biden's decision to depart the race. The entire interview is, in essence, scripted. I would call it media corruption. I'd also tell you, in my mind, what's occurring is almost similar to a paid political program. They're probably not paying for this interview, but in essence, it's like a paid program. And there are laws in the Federal Election Commission rule books against things like that. Again, they didn't pay for it, so it's probably not prosecutable. But by God, I'd be looking into some books to see if it is. When it came to the issue of changing views on policy, Dana Bash asked Vice President Harris how voters should look at where the vice president stands and whether what she's portraying now is what Americans should expect if she serves in the White House. And her answer was, this is Kamala Harris, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. That's what Harris said. Now break down those words. The most important words in there is she said, my values have not changed. Hell, that doesn't tell us anything about policies. It just says my values, and it's very, very generic. My values have not changed. And she didn't get pressed on it. Well, heck no. Do your values change overnight? No. Do your values change from week to week? No. Do you really change your values? Let's define values. Values are the things in life that are really important to you, your priorities. Values. My idea, my value of when I put the ring on my finger in 1994, saying I do meant that I don't. And when I say I don't, I've never had an extramarital affair. We've all been tested. I've never gone there, and I wouldn't, because of my values. My value is my commitment to my wife. My value is that when I proposed to my wife and married my wife, my value is that the most important thing I can do for her as her husband is to protect her emotional security through our lives. Protect my wife's emotional security. One of the most important things I can do. That value doesn't change. That's my value. So Kamala comes out and says, my values have not changed. That's left to interpretation. Those on the left will interpret it to saying, I still believe in green energy. I still believe in what I believe on the border issue. I still am against fracking. And those on the right will interpret it differently. This was media corruption because it's masked as an interview. It's masked as it gives Kamala and Tim Walz an opportunity to go out and say, we've done interviews. We've sat down and did an hour-long session with Dana Bash. That's not an interview. That's not. This is so unfair, and it's why you and I have a distrust and dislike towards the media because of things like this. We're being played. She's sitting there tonight on CNN giving us the middle finger and giving the media the middle finger. Now, the interview comes ahead of the Labor Day holiday, which marks the start of the fall presidential campaign. She'll be in Michigan and Pennsylvania on Monday, while Trump will be in Pennsylvania on Friday. Notice where the candidates go. Notice where they go, because that'll tell you the most important swing states. And the other thing is, tomorrow is a very, very important day. I want to tell you why tomorrow is a very important day and why your radar has to be up. If you got an opinion on anything I'm talking about, my name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Krok. Pick up the phone and call me and tell me. My phone number is 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. My buddy Garrett Tarango will answer the phone. You and him will talk for a minute. He'll shoot me a note and say, hey, Jeff, so-and-so wants to talk to you. Coming up in about 4 minutes, got Sean Allen in the newsroom with updates on the Harris thing and also an update on a Ken Paxton event that went down late this afternoon. We'll talk about after the newscast. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Krok on News Talk 820, WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. So Kamala and Tim Walz are doing an interview tonight that's airing on CNN. It's friendlies with friendlies. That's what it is. It's like a paid political program. It's what I would call... It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem right. It's media corruption. It's similar to a paid political program. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. You can follow me or interact with me during the show at Westside Jeff on Facebook, on X, on Instagram. I get a lot of messages throughout the program that I'll try to get back to you when I have time, when I'm not talking. But the other thing is you can just pick up the phone and call me at 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. My producer, Garrett Tarango, will be answering the phone call, so say hello to Garrett and be nice to him. And in the newsroom, I appreciate my partnership with Sean Allen, keeping me up to date on what he's working on in the news, and we'll keep you up to speed. Two big stories today. One is the interviews, sit-down interviews, so that Kamala can check the box and say, yeah, we've done that before. And the other one is AG Ken Paxton. He, late today, Paxton, the Attorney General here in Texas, Ken Paxton, filed a suit suing Dallas over State Fair of Texas gun ban. And as that story goes, he followed through on a promise to sue Dallas and the State Fair of Texas over the fair's plans to ban most people from bringing firearms to the annual event. Now, the lawsuit was filed late today in Dallas County District Court and argues that the city, the fair, and interim city manager, Kimberly Tolbert, are violating state law and the Constitution by allowing the fair to change its rules to only grant elected officials, appointed officials, or employed peace officers the ability to carry firearms into South Dallas's Fair Park. Now, the fair previously allowed attendees with a valid handgun license to bring a gun as long as it was concealed. But state law doesn't require Texans to have a permit to carry a firearm in public. So my question for you is this. What do you make of that? The fair is banning the use of firearms and bringing guns in unless you are basically a police officer. And that's on the heels of the shooting that occurred there last year. And the state AG is filing a suit against them. How do you feel about that? Is it a deal? Is it a big deal or is it not a big deal? Is it important to you? Is it not important to you, and why? Why is this an important issue for you or not an important issue for you? I'd like to hear your comments at 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. Now, Paxton's lawsuit says municipalities cannot nullify state law, nor can they avoid accountability by contracting official functions to nominally third parties. He also goes on to say, neither the city of Dallas nor the State Fair of Texas can infringe upon Texans' right to self-defense. He says, I warned 15 days ago that if they did not end their unlawful conduct, I would see them in court, and now I will. Whether you like him or not, I appreciate that out of Ken Paxton. He told you what he's going to do, and he's done it. Late today, the city has declined comment, citing pending litigation. The State Fair of Texas didn't immediately respond Thursday to any request. They really haven't responded to that either. Now, Paxton's suit seeks to block the policy from being enforced and preventing police from arresting fairgoers who violate the policy and allow attendees with a valid handgun license to bring a gun into the state fair. My thought is this: it's government it's overreach. Ken Paxton is doing the right thing because he has to challenge the Second Amendment. He has to make a point, because if government allows entities like the state fair to ban guns, then what's next? Who else can? How much further can that go? I liken it to a visual. The visual is you take a rubber band and you hold a rubber band in front of you, and it's got elasticity, right? It has a resistance to it. And if you pull that rubber band apart, far enough apart to stretch it, but not far enough apart to break it, and if you leave it in that position for a length of time, you've enlarged that rubber band. That's government overreach to me. The government's got to get out of that. We've got the Second Amendment, and guns are something that people are attacking, or government entities are attacking. And we can't just allow Democrats to get their way and to ban guns because of a shooting at the state fair last year from a couple of thugs. That's my opinion. I want to hear your opinion. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff, sitting in for Chris Krok. My phone number, 800-288-9227. Pick up the phone, call me. We've got a couple open phone lines, 800-288-9227, like Dan from Frisco, who has a thought on this. Dan, thanks for calling. What's your thought?
Yeah, man, I'd just like to say that, it's an old fable or whatever, but an armed society is a polite society.
Spot on, baby. Spot on.
These people, these goofballs, they want to take all of our rights away. I am a licensed, I have a CHL, and I've been carrying for years. I've never had any issues. It's a safety thing for me, and I would hate to need it and not have it. So therefore, I do carry. I am armed every day, everywhere I go, and I don't want that right taken away from me if I want to go and enjoy a fair and not being able to protect my family. You know what I mean?
I get it. I love your line. An armed society is a polite society. Dan, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. I come back to this. I've said many times that in a lot of the shootings you see what they call mass shootings around the country. Usually what takes down a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Sean from Rockwall, you're on with Westside Jeff on WBAP. What's your thought?
Hey, Jeff, thanks for taking my call. I think Paxton's right on point here by defending the Second Amendment and standing up, because as soon as you start to relax on that is when problems start. This whole concealed carry situation that's going on in the state of Texas, you're right. You do not have to have a license to carry openly. That means visible to anyone and everyone. Concealed carry does still require concealed carry handgun license. I was actually at the fair when that situation took place last year. And I can tell you what, me and the person I was with felt a whole lot safer knowing that I was armed and prepared to take care and defend us if that time came. We got to a safe part of the area. It was very chaotic, but we ended up moving ourselves to a safe space, taking a breather, and then actually getting to leave in a controlled manner. And I tell you right now, if we weren't secured on our own and I was not carrying, there would have been panic, there would have been that frustration and that scared. We weren't. We felt control. We felt in control of our situation and our surroundings. We knew to get off the X and get to a safe space, and we did so.
Spot on, Sean from Rockwall. Thank you for calling and thank you for listening. I appreciate you being part of the show. This is a big deal. I agree with you, and it's a big enough deal that I'll be listening tomorrow morning to Ernie at 7:17 a.m. to WBAP, because Ernie's going to have Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, on the air with him tomorrow to talk about this topic. It's one thing for you and I to talk about this tonight. Ernie's going to have Paxton on tomorrow morning at 7:17, so make sure to tune in tomorrow morning at 7:17 to WBAP to hear what the conversation between Ernie and Ken Paxton is. Again, I don't like this lawsuit. I say it's government overreach is what it is. It's government overreach, and I don't like it. That's my opinion. 800-288-9227. We got a couple open phone lines for you to weigh in. 800-288-WBAP. In about 4 minutes, got to hit a quick break. In about 4 minutes, we'll come back and take some more calls. We'll get a couple callers on here and a couple open lines. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. And for Chris Krok on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. So Kamala and Tim Walz are doing their little paid political program. It's really not paid, but I would contend it is. It's a friendly interview with them, and it comes back to me, the morality of the media again is it's media corruption, because it's the media is not doing their job. The role of the media is to be the watchdog of the community, the watchdog of government. And that's what the media does. Good media does. Unfortunately, CNN, Dana Bash is not doing that. More on a local level. The media is playing watchdog of the community, and the media, some media, are challenging government officials and challenging policy. And it starts, it goes on tomorrow morning at 7:17 a.m. right here on this radio station. It's Ernie. We'll have Ken Paxton on the air, our Attorney General, to talk to him about the fact that he filed a lawsuit today over Dallas. He's suing Dallas over a state fair of Texas gun ban. Attorney General Ken Paxton followed through on a promise to sue Dallas and the State Fair of Texas over the fair's plans to ban most people from bringing firearms to the event, unless they're police officers. Now, the real question is, will police officers, will they arrest people? Will they act upon that? Now, this rule change comes after a man shot 3 people at the fair last year. The fair organizers have pointed to other large annual events around the state with similar firearm restrictions, such as the Houston Livestock Show and the Rodeo, and the San Antonio Livestock Show and Rodeo in Austin. And they say that they're well within the reason of being able to do that. I say they're not. I say it's wrong. I say it's got to go. I say it's government overreach. What do you say? 800-288-9227. Kelly from Paradise, you're on the Chris Krok Show with Westside Jeff. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call. My point I wanted to make is apparently, probably the guy that had the gun last year didn't bring it through the checkpoint. Like most of us, they're legal, law-abiding, caring citizens. So stripping us just leaves everybody else there unprotected.
And vulnerable.
Yeah. To whatever people want to slip through the fence, the back of the gate, that aren't going through the check stands where we do.
Spot on. Kelly, thanks for listening. I appreciate you listening and weighing in. Kim from, you too. Kim from Roulette. Did I get that right, Roulette?
You got it right. It's Rowlett.
Excellent.
Hey, so I don't think it's right for the police to be the only ones legally to carry. I think that it's disarming the public, and it's invading our rights to protect ourselves. The bad guys don't care about us, and we shouldn't care about the bad guys. And apparently the bad guys are showing up. So, with our immigration system being what it is and the criminals being where they are, I don't see that it's fair to punish the rest of the good-hearted Texas fairgoers to punish them and keep them from carrying legally if they have a license to carry. I don't agree with carrying open, but if you have a license to carry, I think we're responsible adults that know the law, and I think that it's absolutely unacceptable.
Kim, thank you for calling. I appreciate your opinion on that. And thanks for listening to the show. Totally agree with you. All our callers tonight are saying the exact same thing, what I agree with, and that is this is government overreach. As we're talking about the story about the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who followed through with a promise to sue Dallas and the State Fair of Texas over the fair's plans to ban most people from bringing firearms at the annual event. It goes on to say that the fair wants to restrict that. They're allowing the fair. Kimberly Tolbert is the interim city manager, and Paxton saying that the city manager and the county and the city and the area are really violating state law and constitution by allowing the fair to change its rules to only grant elected officials, appointed officials, or employed peace officers to the ability to carry firearms into South Dallas's fair park. The fair previously allowed attendees with valid handgun license to bring a gun as long as it was concealed until last year. And it's your typical case of one bad incident ruins it for the rest of us. One unfortunate incident affects the rest of us. That's typically how government works. When one little bad thing goes wrong, and it's not the norm, it doesn't happen every day, it doesn't happen all the time, they go government overreach on us, and they do stupid crap. And this is one of those. Again, Ernie will have Ken Paxton on the air tomorrow morning at 7:17 a.m. here on WBAP. Make sure to tune in. Scott from Ennis, I'm sure that you'll be listening. Thanks for listening to the Westside Jeff show and Chris Krok show. You're on WBAP.
Thank you. Good to be on. I just want to cap real quick that, our constitutional rights, not just the Second Amendment, it's a lot of them, are always being infringed by our government. And the more they get by with it, the less water our basket holds. And as soon as it's going to be empty. But the other thing is this left-wing biased media, which is probably all the big names even Fox is starting to drift off at. It is all one-sided media, and when people hear one-sided media, then that's what they learn. It's like teaching a dumb dog how to try to do a trick. But if you do it enough, they'll start to maybe get it. But when it comes to Second Right Amendment, that's something we cannot back off on. That is our only ticket to freedom.
Totally agree with you, Scott. Thanks for calling. I appreciate you calling and being a part of the show. Coming up in a matter of minutes, about 5 minutes, we've got to the news with Sean Allen in the newsroom, and he dropped a note on me that said he's going to be talking about this lawsuit from Paxton. He's got some additional information on that. He also has a story about Intel with some layoffs. Now, the Intel and layoffs thing is important to me because don't forget just a while back, about 8 months ago, the government, Biden signed off on the CHIPS Act that gave $20 billion to Intel to build a big old plant up in the state of Ohio, my home state. And on the heel of that money, the government money funding to build more chips, now they're laying people off. It just doesn't smell right to me. He'll have that story, Sean Allen, in the newsroom in about 5 minutes.